Krista Wortendyke, and I am an adjunct faculty professor at Columbia College. I also work with CCAP in their team program. I have an undergraduate degree in photography as well as a grad degree in photography. And my work basically deals with the idea of violence in the media and how we sort of process violence through different mediations. So I've looked at war and gun violence in Chicago. The very first thing that I did with team was with Liz Retsnicki. She hooked me up with May Academy, and she actually saw a piece of mine that was up in public in Wicker Park. It was a piece about violence in Chicago. The piece itself is 172 images that are every location of a homicide in the summer of 2010. It's a 65-foot long installation, and it actually is sort of arranged in a bar graph. So it's a mathematical, distribution of murders in the city. So Liz saw that and thought that I'd be perfect to work with team because of the meshing of sort of math and English and science with arts. So I got paired up with a math class at May Academy and worked with talking with them about violence and how to make a physical manifestation of the numbers of people that were killed in their neighborhood specifically. I had a phenomenal experience my first time with team and working with these kids over at May Academy. They were absolutely wonderful kids, and they responded really well to this sort of different take on education, or a different take on learning. So what I found was that some of the kids, and I didn't know this until the very end, but a lot of the kids that were kind of trouble in classes ended up being the ones that took the lead on these projects. And they were wonderful for me, but apparently not wonderful for their teachers. But it was a really extremely rewarding experience. I mean, I learned a lot, and I think they learned a lot. And I'm still working with team, and now I'm also working with Convergence in a high school down in Back of the Arts. So yeah, I absolutely love working with these kids. It's been fantastic. So the way that my curriculum planning has worked with the teachers is that we really kind of meet and sit down and talk about what their ideas are, what they want the students to learn. And on my end, I try to think of ways that we can build an art project out of that. So I'm a photographer by sort of nature, but I don't think that anything can necessarily just fit into that sort of box. So I try to think in terms of all the arts that exist and all the sort of technology out there and what we can use to make this happen. I've sat down with them, and they've had various different ideas about what they want their students to learn. So for instance, the one was that they wanted to talk about violence in the Austin neighborhood. So we kind of sat down together and said, okay, well, what can we do to make a project out of violence in the Austin neighborhood? And we sort of looked at the homicides in the neighborhood and found out that there were 30 homicides that year. There were 30 students in the class. We kind of worked with those numbers and said we assigned each student one of the people that was killed, and they had to do research on that person. They made an RIP t-shirt with any information that they found, pictures and stuff. And then they went on to they did a lot. It sort of built off of that. They mapped everything on a map, so they got sort of skills with like geolocation and mapping and stuff. And then they did a performance piece, and in the performance piece they stood on the map on a stage. One kid made a rap about everyone that died, and as he talked about the people, they fell down onto the ground and on the map and covered the whole map. So to take photographs, and because I'm a photographer, to take photographs and try to work with these kids and say, how can we implement photography into this? I think I would have been at a complete loss. I really needed to think outside of my immediate sort of medium and kind of build off of that to some other kind of art that would foster their learning and not just stick within what I know. I think one of the main things that I've learned is that I have to trust the students. No matter what age they are, I have to trust that they can do things on their own. And what I've learned, I think, in that process is that putting them into smaller groups where they're working on little bits of projects is way more successful than trying to have all of them do the same thing, because their interests are different. And that's the whole reason why team exists to begin with, I think, is because we're trying different ways of educating. And to think that everyone can do the same thing and learn the same thing is sort of, it's not right. I don't think it's right, at least. So being able to go in and pick a project and say there are all these multiple pieces of it, and you maybe want to do the sound part, and you want to do the video part, and you want to deal with mapping, and then those kids all learn a skill, and they're not forced into things that they don't want to do. And I think that there's a sort of more positive reaction to that, and that carries over to college as well. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time, Krista.
Thanks.